Hey, just finishing this claim to get Dave back on the road.
Nice. I wonder what Dave's doing.
You do your thing. We've got you covered.
Hey, is the power off on this?
I don't know. Just take it off.
Safety violation, unsafe work conditions.
In the construction trades unions, safety is our highest priority, and we train you to recognize and speak out on unsafe working conditions so that everyone arrives and goes home safely. Learn about careers in construction at georgiaconstructioncareers.com.
Good afternoon and welcome to the 365th episode of the Alfa Insurance Georgia Prep Sports Drive for the GHSA State Title. Today we're going to start off by talking about last night's Game 3 baseball action. Some huge results. We'll get into more in-depth look at the track and field state championships this week, talk a little bit about the other championship matchups, and then our guest is going to be North Murray head coach Preston Poag. And I was originally going to have him on last week. He was busy, and I'm actually really glad he's coming on now because it's very relevant. This last week, Judson Petty, who was their quarterback and Ironman last year, receiver. He played a lot of different positions, but he just got an opportunity, partial scholarship at Georgia Tech. He was not even planning on going to college. The offer came late, and I think it has to do with the fact that Ladd got drafted so early in the NFL draft. Georgia Tech is probably looking at this comparison to another North Murray guy, sees Ladd go early in the draft and says, you know what, we're going to bring on Judson Petty. And this past season against Pickens, this was actually when we talked to Coach Poag last. It was right after that win. Judson Petty had 360 receiving yards that game, broke the single game all-time state record. And Coach Poag said he wasn't even aware that he had that many yards. It's about a 7-minute clip you can find of all his catches. And what I really like about Judson Petty as a receiver, and where I see the same similarity to Ladd, as soon as they catch the ball, they're like a relay runner in track. They're able to catch it and with power and speed immediately get upfield. And that's certainly something he can do. So I wish him the best of luck. I get to ask Coach Poag all the fun questions. And one of the things I pointed out last week, the big storyline about Ladd was how he was overlooked by the recruiters. He didn't have the stars. But the other side of that story is Coach Poag, who relentlessly tried to sell Ladd to these programs, saying you got to look at this guy. So I'm going to talk to him about what his sales pitch was, if he ended up having to tape their eyes open and said, look at the film, just sit down and look at it, for God's sake. But it ended up working out, and we'll also obviously talk about the 2024 Mountaineers. Well, let's get started with the baseball. So one of the teams that was in the rankings early on and then really faced a pivotal moment of their season was Grayson. They started out red hot. They got into region play, though, and they opened up 0-7. They lost to Parkview. They got swept, and then they got swept by Brookwood, and I think they lost an opener to maybe either Archer or Newton. And their season was on the line. It was a very difficult region. Archer didn't make the playoffs. Newton made the playoffs for the first time. This is a team that really had to not only perform well in the back half, they had to win the series and even sweep them just to get that number 3 seed. Well, in the playoffs, they've been outstanding. They're playing incredibly well, and they just beat Walton last night in 3 games. And that was at Walton, their new stadium. Walton is a very methodical team. They base run very well. They They take advantage of each situation. They're very situational in terms of hitting, how to not strand runners. And they capitalized in game 2. Walton had 3 errors. And then last night, I felt like they had a ton of confidence. Went in there, built an early lead. They were leading, I think, 5-2 heading into the final inning. Walton tried to come back, and then they ended up getting that final out for the 5-4 victory. So let's go over last night's Game 3 results. But that's going to be a huge semifinals in Class 7A. So on the right side of the bracket, you have North Paulding. How good is North Paulding? They beat the team that beat Brookwood and Grayson in Parkview. And then in the last round, they swept past North Gwinnett, who is number 3 in the state. So you got North Paulding playing absolutely phenomenal, beat the number 1 team out of this region that now is going to have Brookwood and Grayson squaring off in a rematch of their very tight series early on. And then North Paulding is going to have to play defending state champion Lowndes on the other side. So I feel like the Brookwood Grayson, that's kind of a toss-up. And then on the other side with Lowndes and North Paulding, I mean, that's as close to a championship matchup in the semifinals as you can get. So we'll go over the Grayson series real quick, just an overview, and then the MDJ has a write-up on it with more details that I will get into. And that's obviously a Cobb outlet, so it's coming at it from the Cobb County perspective. But really pretty shocking result just based on what Grayson's had to do in the playoffs. Walton was considered one of the best teams in the state. I talked to Cal after they faced him, and this was even after they beat Etowah midway through the season. They said they felt like Walton had the best roster top to bottom, but Grayson just went in there super focused, got that win. So they advanced to the semis on Tuesday with a 4-3 road win over Walton in a decisive Game 3 victory. In Game 1, this was a 5-2 victory by Walton. Walton led 3-0 in the 3rd inning. Grayson cut the deficit to 2-1. Walton added 2 insurance runs in the 6th to close out the 5-2 win. In Game 2, it was Grayson that jumped out to a 3-0 lead in the 2nd inning, and then they closed out a clutch double play in the bottom of the inning to preserve that 3-0 lead. Walton got on the board in the bottom of the 4th to shrink it to 3-1, but Grayson responded with an insurance run in the top of the 5th to go up 4-1. Walton once again cut it to a 3-run game in the bottom of the 5th, but the Rams escaped the jam and went up 6-2 with a pair of runs in the top of the 7th, and then held on for that 6-2 win. Last night the game was scoreless heading into the 4th inning. Grayson got on the board to go up 1-0 and then pushed the lead to 4-0 heading to the top of the 6th. They maintained the shutout until Walton put up 3 in the 6th inning, the bottom of the 6th, and then Grayson got the final out. All right, so let's go to the MDJ. Grayson holds off Walton comeback in Game 3 triumph. Behind a relentless offensive performance and a stout defensive display, keep in mind in Game 2 they only had 1 error to Walton's 3. Grayson advanced to the 7A semis with a 4-3 win over Walton. The Rams now 23-13. Keep in mind 7 of those losses came right in a row. They took the lead in the 1st inning and held off several Walton rallies, including a 3-run effort in the 6th to win their 3rd straight series on the road and reach the Final Four for the first time since 2019. Grayson head coach Jed Hickson said his team's tenacity in tough situations and its ability to stay focused was essential to closing out the series. Just the kids maintaining the mental grit to have that little comeback there in the 6th inning and still hold on was very impressive. In the field, Grayson was nearly flawless, committing no errors to Walton's 4 in Game 3 and turning 3 double plays to limit the Raiders' ability to threaten on the base pass. Hickson said he believed taking advantage of defensive opportunities will be at the forefront of the Rams' continuing quest to win the program's first state championship. And obviously, if you've been following Grayson this year, They won their first ever basketball state title this year. So it's been probably the best school year in Grayson history. Their football team was also tremendous, making the run that they did. When the other team provides you with extra opportunities, whether that's defensive or just walking people, you've definitely got to take advantage of it. We did not a few times, but we did when it mattered, and that's a huge part of baseball for sure. Walton's coach, Shane Amos, credited his team for battling back down 4 runs late, but acknowledged the Rams' lack of mistakes playing a huge part in the series. They're the best defensive team we've seen all season, Coach Amos said. They don't have that top-notch flamethrower on the mound, but those kids got out there and battled and got us off balance, made us put the ball in play, and then didn't mess up once we did. So it's pretty high praise coming from Walton's head coach. Landon Arroyos got things started for Grayson. And how about that? Grayson, good at defense? Where have we seen that before? Landon Arroyos got things started for Grayson by reaching on a leadoff walk before Alex Espinoza laid down a sacrifice bunt and reached on an error. A second Walton error allowed Arroyos to score, giving the Rams an early 1-0 lead. In the 5th, Arroyos and Espinoza both reached base on a walk and a single, respectively. After Vernon Woodward was hit by a pitch to load the bases with just 1 out, a balk by Walton's pitcher brought in Arroyos from third to make it 2-0. And that's interesting. I don't think you normally see a balk with bases loaded, because that's not a situation where you would try to steal a base. And moving Espinoza and Woodward into scoring position. An error soon after allowed Grayson to go up 3-0, and then the Rams added a 4th run on a Nick Jackson single up the middle to drive home Woodard. Walton finally broke through in the bottom of the 6th. A leadoff walk by Miller Alston and a single by Levi Clark was followed by a double by Jackson Taylor that scored Alston to make it 4-1. After Parker Dastow's sac fly scored pinch runner Luke Wheeler, Walker Killamet hit a ball that got past Williamson in center, and it went all the way to the wall. Taylor scored, and Killamet stood at third with a triple that cut Grayson's lead to 4-3. Grayson advanced to play Region 4 7A rival Brookwood in the semis. Hickson said a similar formula will be key to getting to the championship series. We're going to have to come and face those good arms and again grind out at bats, Hickson said. We've got a bunch of gritty kids who enjoy playing baseball and play the game very well, and they buy into the little things that drive the success. So really impressive just how Grayson handled that series, how they responded early in the season when they took some of those losses in the region, and now they're still standing. So let's look back at the Brookwood series. And by the way, I mean, they finished 8-7 in the region, and they had to really finish strong. So they started out, this was on March 8th. They were 7-1. They lost to North Gwinnett in their season opener, 11-1. North Gwinnett went out in the quarterfinals to North Paulding. So really solid team. They fell 1-0 to Loganville. Loganville is still in the 5A state playoffs. They are the defending champs, going for, I believe, their 8th all-time state title. So they fell 1-0 to Loganville. Then they matched up with Parkview. They lost 4-2, 8-4, and then 10-0. So this is the first part of the season when they really have started experiencing losses. Up until then, it was just the 1-run loss to open, a 7-game win streak. Then they played Brookwood. They fell 11-0, 6-2, and then were able to win the 3rd game, 5-4. So very close series. They did get one on Brookwood. They swept South Gwinnett, then fell to Mill Creek 4-2, and then they played Buford in a doubleheader, non-region, and they won that series 2-0 with a 5-4, 5-3 victory. They faced North Paulding next, who obviously is still in the playoffs. They lost that one 3-2, another close matchup. They fell to Decula in non-region. They beat Denmark. They lost the series to Newton 2-1. And Newton and Grayson's always a rivalry in every sport. And then they swept Archer to earn the number 3 seed. So I mean, anything can happen this next series with Brookwood. It was extremely close last time, and there's no doubt about it that both teams are playing incredible right now. As for Brookwood, they had a huge win last night over Buford, 5-4, and this came after a dramatic 4-3 victory in Game 2. So Brookwood lost Game 1 3-0. They bounced back with a 4-3 win in Game 2. That game was tied 3-3 at the end of the 7th, and it took 12 innings before Brookwood finally closed out the victory to extend the series. There were multiple innings where Brookwood had a guy on second or had a runner in scoring position. Buford came up with some really clutch plays, threw out a couple runners at third. I think they even had a inning where they got the guy out at the plate. Brookwood kept hammering away, was able to force a Game 3, and then last night took the series with that 5-4 victory. And let's see, in Game 3, Brookwood used a 5-hit top of the 4th inning to go up 3-0. They extended the lead off an error in the top of the 5th. Buford responded with a 3-run bottom of the 5th inning that included a 2 RBI single by Madden Young. Brookwood added what turned into the game-deciding insurance run in the top of the 6th to go up 5-3 before the Wolves scored their final run in the bottom of the 7th, and Brookwood escaped with the win. So dramatic series right there. North Paulding 8-4 over North Gwinnett, 6-0, and then Lowndes looked very efficient against South Forsyth, 5-0, 11-1. So that's what you have to look forward to in Class 7A. In Class 6A, last night the big result was Blessed Trinity was able to get the win against Marist. To win that series, they're now going to play Etowah. And then you have Houston County against Pope. They both swept. In Class 5A, defending state champion Loganville is going to play Kell, after Kell beat Greenbrier in 3 games. That was played at Kell. Now Kell's going to have to go to Loganville, and then you're going to have Ware County against Cartersville. That'll be another great series. In the Class 4A, you had 3-team sweep. Cherokee Bluff swept. Stars Mill and North Oconee did as well. You're going to have Stars Mill against North Oconee, and then Cherokee Bluff is going to play Holy Innocents. Holy Innocents won in 3 games last night against Troop, 5-0, and this actually will be Cherokee Bluff's first ever trip to the semifinals. They've had great seasons these last 3 or 4 years. They've been ranked number 1 and number 2. They've been in that same region as North Oconee, who's won back-to-back titles. They've gotten wins against North Oconee. They've played the best of the best, but this is the season when they're finally trying to come through. And the key in the last series, the sweep over Wayne County, was Tanaka Makonu. He had, I believe, 2 homers, 2 solo shots in that Game 2 11-3 victory. He has been phenomenal. In Class 3A, Mary Persons, we had been on the show this past Monday to talk about their win over Wesleyan. That was a pretty dramatic one. They won 3-2 in that first game. That game ended with them throwing Wesleyan out at the plate. They won 14-7 Game 2. Calvary Day swept their series with Dawson County. Harlem, the defending state champs, ended up sweeping Pickens, and then Oconee County beat Thomasville in Game 3. In Class 2A, Mount Perrin swept, and then North Cobb Christian also swept, and I think that's what you're going to see is that rematch of those 2 powerhouses. All right, but we've gone pretty long in this first segment, so let's go ahead. We'll take a quick break, thank our sponsors, and we'll be back on the other side.
What you doing?
Hey, just finishing this claim to get Dave back on the road.
Nice. I wonder what Dave's doing.
You do your thing. We've got you covered.
Hey, does it matter if this leaks?
It don't matter to me, can't see it from my house.
Illegal use of hands, improper training.
GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com has 14 different highly skilled trades with tuition-free training in our certified apprenticeship programs to train you the right way. Find your career at GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com.
All right, welcome back. So before we try to bring on Coach Poag, let's go over some of these track and field meet previews. All right, and I have my big preview up. I'm going to pull up real quick. All right, so a couple classifications that I think are going to be difficult for the teams to repeat. I think one of them is Class 6A with the Woodward Academy girls. And last year, that is because Olivia Powell has since graduated. She was our Georgia Gatorade Track Athlete of the Year. I got to see her run in the Wingfoot Night of Champions, where she went head-to-head against every state champion from every classification in the hurdle events, and she was flawless, did not make any mistakes. It's such a crowded pack. I mean, any slip up with those hurdles and you aren't going to win the title. She absolutely nailed it, had one of the best seasons ever, and she left her War Eagles career as the number 6 all-time in the 100 meters and then number 2 all-time in the 300-meter hurdles. And then she also helped lead Woodward last year in the 4x100 and the 4x400 relay teams to top finishes. So single-handedly, she helped account for 40 points in Woodward Academy's victory last year. She's obviously since graduated, and now you're going to have leading the relay team, which they did win their sectional this last week. That was the controversial one we were talking about, that Class 6A Sectional B, and that's going to be Madison Gardner, Taylor Galati, Sydney Glee, and Chelsea Williams. So they're the new relay team. And if Woodward is going to win another state title, they're going to have to, once again, perform well in the relays. They've proven they can do that. And then find someone that can earn points in the hurdles. Alexander finished second last year, and they will certainly be a big-time challenger. In Class 7A, I think it's going to be a little bit closer this year also. So last year, Westlake swept. They still have some of the best relay teams. Westlake's got Sijay, I forgot his last name. He's going to anchor the relay teams. He's also going to do the 200 meters and the 400. But you saw last year, Walton and Buford, they both tied for second, and Walton has added, if you look at this year in their region championship victory, they have more successful results coming from the field events. They're dominating the discus, the shot put. Lota Agokwe, he also has been stepping it up in the discus, and I think that's where they're going to be able to possibly make up some more points. And then Walton's relay team on the girls' side has been very strong. this year. Let me pull this up. All right, and then in Class 4A, let's see, Southwest DeKalb, they've won back-to-back, but I think they are going to have a hard time repeating that same success. They graduated Xavier and Isaiah Taylor. They were seniors last year. They're twins. They were the first ever players of the year, and it's because they were both responsible in the relay events. They both scored in the jumps, and I believe Isaiah was the star in the 200, and then Xavier was the star in the 400. So they accounted for, I think it was 42 of Southwest DeKalb's 81 points last year, and then Stars Mill had 77, Westminster 72, right behind them. So if they can't fill the void left by the Taylor twins, they're going to have trouble, especially with Westminster coming back with all that depth, and then Stars Mill, which has absolutely dominated in the jumps this year. All right, on the girls' side, I think Westminster is the team to beat. Last year, they had the largest margin of victory out of any state champion. They had 124 points. Second place, Druid Hills, had 64. Druid Hills this year has set the state record in the 4x100 relay, and I believe the 4x200. But Westminster is going to have Grace Smith, and last year she had, as a junior, had the most points out of any athlete at state, and that's because she's going to be anchoring the relays for Westminster, and she's also developed into one of the best jumpers or jump specialists in the country. This past week, she broke her own school record in the long jump, 20 feet, and then 1.75, and that put her in a top 20 result in the country this season. So last year she won, I believe, the long jump, triple, and 2 relay events, and she'll be back. Westminster looks like this team to beat. In Class 3A, Sandy Creek on the girls' side won the first ever last year, and then the boys repeated for their 4th all-time championship, and that was their first ever sweep. So we'll see if Sandy Creek's able to do that again. Class 2A, Athens Academy won their first ever boys last year. I think that's a result of the classification shift last year. No longer was there a Class A private where they're going up against a bunch of private schools. They went into 2A, and they were able to win that one pretty easily. Mount Pisgah on the boys' side, they won Class A Division I for their first ever, and then Class A Division II was swept by Montgomery County, and those teams once again are back as the favorites. All right, so in Class 6A, let's get into some storylines real quick. The top boys athletes to watch. State record holder Maurice Gleaton out of Langston Hughes. We talked about Woodward Academy last year. Olivia Powell was the reason they were able to win the state title. Last year, Hughes won their first ever state title, and Maurice Gleaton was one of the reasons they were able to come away with it. He's only going to be, I believe, a junior this year. He is the state record holder, and he is back and hungry to prove himself once again after coming up just short of some individual titles last year. He's been very smart with his build-up to the state meet this year, and it seems it didn't come out with him flying out of the gates like some sprinters, and that is a mistake some of them do. You have a bunch of meets where you'll see, like in the Westminster relays, where they'll bring in 20 teams, but they aren't doing the 100 or 200. Those events are particular to the distance events. So he's been kind of saving himself. He has the state qualifying times, but now he is focused on the title, not necessarily proving himself throughout the season. He's been very measured, and he was slowly building, and then ran a season personal record at the sectionals this last week in both the 100 and the 200. He looks every bit the part of a future state champion, and he is probably going to have 4 events to be able to win state titles on Saturday. I'm sure avenging his loss in the 100 last year will be his top priority. That 100, who won it last year? Well, you had Eric Singleton in there, and we know what he's been doing up at Tech. Putting up a total of 40 points, or 25 if you're a stickler, for dividing up relay points for his team will be the main goal of him this weekend. And so what they're saying is 4 events, if you finished first, that's 10 points. The track purist, when they calculate who had the most overall points, they, I guess, divide the 10 points between the 4 relay guys. But, I mean, if Hughes is going to win the relay, Maurice, look at his split, he'll be the reason why. Let's see. Behind Gleaton, we really do have a good group of sprinters who are ready to roll. That is Zachary Morgan, Jalen Scott, and Makai Williams. They will be getting much more love in any other class this year, but they have to go up against Gleaton and Hughes. So they might end up having a time that would have won a state title in a different classification, but Maurice Gleaton has just been on a different level. On the girls' side, this preview is talking about how many potential teams have emerged to challenge Woodward. If 11 points really doesn't get you 17th place as a team, that kind of explains things. Early on the season, they were impressed by Woodward Academy and thought they'd be putting up well over 100 points in the state meet despite losing Olivia Powell. Then everyone else began to show up, and it turns out Woodward is still the favorite, but not the dominant one we were expecting. Woodward is really good at the sprints. They've found ways to replace Olivia in the hurdles and the relays, as well as the big events, but they're truly a nice balanced track and field team. Who is going to be able to catch them? There's several teams, which is crazy to think, and while I do think Woodward is beatable, if they're on their game, little mistakes will prevent them from doing it. Etowah and Alexander are probably the closest contenders. Etowah had a monster sectional meet and put themselves in great position. They're also balanced in the jumps, sprints, and relays. Alexander is really strong in the jumps and will do a bunch of damage in the first day, but they're also good at the distance. You also have Pope, Lakeside, Hughes, Dunwoody, Grovetown, Marist, and Alpharetta. Looks like we have Coach Poag, so let's take one more quick break, and we'll bring him on to talk about the Neers.
What you doing?
Hey, just finishing this claim to get Dave back on the road.
Nice. I wonder what Dave's doing.
You do your thing. We've got you covered.
Dang, where you get this car?
You need to join the union.
The union?
Absolutely. You can get 10 of these.
Union construction workers earn the highest wages with the best benefits and the most protection in the construction industry. Find your career in construction. Go to GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com and start your future today.
All right, welcome back, guys. So let's go ahead and bring on North Murray head coach Preston Poag. Hey, Coach, how's it going?
How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on. Coach, you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. All right, so I want to start, before we talk about this season, before we talk about Judson, got to talk about Ladd and where he went in the draft. And really, I want to point out, when you look at the people analyzing the draft, the fact that Ladd was considered such like a perfect pick, there's so much excitement he's bringing to the Chargers. What did it mean to you just to see him go as high as he did and just find a team at the NFL level that's really excited to have him there?
I think it's exciting for him and for our program too. He's still a big part of our program. He gets drafted on a Friday and he come to school on Monday, works out with the team, and that just shows you what type of kid he is. But it's all about the right fit for him, and I think it's a good fit. I mean, they lose a lot of the returning receivers, and I think he steps in there and he's going to be one of the guys, and that's all you can ask on that. And I tell you what they'll get. They're getting a kid that it's all about the team. He's a humble guy. The fans are going to love him, and he's going to make big plays for him. My prayer is he just stays healthy and has a long career, and because he deserves it. He's worked his tail off to get where he's at, and so proud of him. And like I said, I'm so happy for him and his family, and for our football program at our high school. It's been a big deal.
Yeah, and I know when he was back playing for you guys, he wasn't necessarily the biggest guy. Adding on that muscle and size was something that people wanted to see. But, I mean, you've seen him recently. Would you say he's definitely packed on the weight to prepare himself? Yeah,
I mean, he comes in here his freshman year, and he might weigh 135. I mean, I think I've told you before. The team picture, he looks like he's in 7th grade. But no matter how he looked, he always was a guy that had the it factor and could make plays. And, and he's played basketball. He's always active in high school. So the guy gets to college, and he's probably close to 190 pounds and really looking good. And actually had lunch with him yesterday. He's getting ready to go. He leaves tomorrow. He's got to be there the 10th, and he's going to be there for OTAs for
Yeah, and when I look at him as a receiver, I really think that he's bringing like a unique skill set. He's able to read the defenses so well. He's so athletic. He has this knack for making big plays. What has impressed you most just about him as a receiver that you've seen?
Yeah, it started at a young age. I mean, a kid that can just run great routes. It's hard to cover him. And I've told you this before too. A lot of these guys came in here to these big schools, and they talked about what's he going to do in the SEC if a guy gets in his face. And I told them they're not going to touch him. He just has that ability to get open because he's so fast. I mean, he's fast east, west, north, south. So I mean, he can do it all, and he got such great ball skills. And if you watch him in the combine, you can tell that. I mean, he was by far the best route runner, and I tell people this: nothing's ever too big for him. He never gets worked up or nervous in a certain situation. He just plays, and he's just the type of kid that makes those plays, but he works at it too. He's the one that stays after practice and works on certain things, and it takes that to get success that he has right now.
Yeah, I think that play against Florida State in the bowl game where he's supposed to throw a double pass and then the play breaks down and he ends up turning it into a touchdown and making it look easy. It's just like, I don't know how he did that. He's so locked in and talented. But I want to go back to when you were trying to sell him to college coaches. Now, obviously, he's in the NFL. You're 100% vindicated, but what was the biggest selling point that you had to relay to them to finally get them to give him that chance?
Well, I think all of them liked his film. I mean, his dynamic on film because he played all different positions. I mean, and had success with all of them. I'd bring them in here, and it was all about the size. I mean, I could tell doing this for many years. I can tell in their eyes, like, oh gosh, this guy's not very big. I think just the sell factor, like, man, give him a chance. I'm telling you, he might not be real big, but he's a playmaker. If you watch him on film in high school, he no matter where he played, I mean, people had to be worried about him, but sometimes college coaches get caught up in the number big and how tall they are, how much they weigh, and sometimes they forget. Yeah, I mean, we know them better than anybody, and I get it. Some coaches they sell their players a little bit too much on the size like that, but I was telling him the truth because I've been working with him since he's little. So I think that was just the biggest sell, and finally somebody gave him a chance, and and everybody said, you think you get to play at Georgia? And I said, yeah, if they give him a chance. If he gets his chance, he will play. He will not look back, and he'll be a big name for him. So it just worked out that way for him. And we were talking yesterday. He was close to going to UTC, very close, until Kirby came in here and they got him right at the end. So it just shows you. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of kids that get missed just because of their size and stuff. But he's a great example for guys that maybe not as big but can still play, and maybe they'll get some chances too.
Yeah, I really can't wait to see what he does at the NFL level. I think he's really just, as I said, he's bringing his own skill set to the position. I mean, he's going to do exactly what he does well. And when I look at Judson Petty, who obviously we'll talk about in a second, he's been compared to Ladd, and I think what stands out most about his film that I also see with Ladd, it's the moment they catch the ball, there's such an explosion of speed and power to where they can maybe break a tackle immediately and then just add those yards after catch. They're almost like a relay runner. Once they get the football, they're just straight up field. So do you see a similarity with Judson and Ladd just in what they're able to do once the ball is in their hand?
Very similar. I mean, you talk about acceleration for both those guys, and guys that, man, if you look at Judson Petty's stats at North Murray, they'll blow you away. I mean, probably the best stats of any one player, and he never came off the field since he was a freshman. But same type of deal with him. I mean, he can play. And a lot of people, his size and his speed, and just watch him on film. I mean, you can time him in a 40, but put him in the game, and game speed's a lot different for him. He's just a ball player and can play a lot of different positions, and very similar how Tech came in here right at the end, and he'll play at Tech. He will go in there. They will be impressed. And as another guy that you're talking about two guys that are so humbled, they don't want to talk about themselves. It's all about the team, and those guys. And it's crazy. Those guys never made excuses. If they messed up, they messed up. It's hard to find that these days, and they would never give you an excuse if something went wrong, and that's what I'm gonna miss about Petty next year. Petty was a big part of our team last year, and it's these other guys going to step up and take his role.
And then in the off seasons, obviously Ladd's gonna be kind of far away, but do you see a future maybe where Ladd and Judson are coming back to campus and kind of helping each other?
Oh, yeah, I think so. So Ladd's got to go for, about a month. He gets a little time off in mid-June to mid-July, and I think they'll definitely work out. And I think they'll work out with a team. I mean, they come back here to work out. And funny story that we brought, Ladd came in here Monday after the draft, and I bring him in there, and all the kids are like, oh, my gosh, Ladd McConkey's in here. And I said, whoa, wait just a minute. Ladd McConkey 5 years ago was in the same line you're in. He's part of our program. We don't look, people get starstruck on stuff. Ladd McConkey is one of us. So it's pretty cool. He comes over here, and Petty will do the same thing. They will come and work out with the team. And we're doing spring practice now. Petty's out there running routes and get ready to go to Tech. So another cool thing about Ladd, I'll share with you, that he's going to wear his high school number with the Chargers. They thought he wanted number 84. He told me yesterday. They called him. Harbaugh called him, and he said, so you want me to be 84? He said, well, I want you to be whatever number you want to be. And he said, what number you want to be? He said, I want to be number 15. And that's pretty cool. That was his high school number, and I'm excited about that for him.
And that was Judson's number as well, correct?
Yeah, so we retired last jersey, and, Petty wears that number, and nobody ever wear it again. That's two good ones, and Petty was all excited. He gets to keep all the jerseys after last year. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do something with Petty in the future too.
And then I want to talk about just how pleased you were with him getting that opportunity, and what was that like? Because I read an article where he said he wasn't sure if he was even going to go the college route, but obviously he's still working out, keeping it open until the school year ends. So, how key was that for him to get this opportunity at Tech, and how did it come about?
I think it was a blessing. I mean, we talk about God's got a humor, and he never at first saw see himself at Tech because academic. He's real good academic, but just a reputation at Tech. But it was a blessing. He wanted to go somewhere big. He had smaller offers, and I think he was discouraged, to be honest with you. I think he was at a point where, man, nobody wants me, but Tech had been in touch with him the whole season, and it just sort of worked out because they didn't have any room in the receiver room, and a kid transferred here late, and that's what happened, and he'll take it and run with it. I'm telling you, he will go and be a really good player for Tech.
Yeah, that Tech receiver room is very deep. I think it's one of the best in the country, honestly. And so, I mean, he's going to be competing with the big timers. So we do the High School Football Hall of Fame. And when I look at Ladd's career, when I look at Judson, the fact that he is the state record holder, 360 yards per game, I'm pretty sure I know they have your vote. But do you see both of them being on the ballot maybe a decade from now and being able to represent your program in the Hall of Fame?
No doubt. I think you put them around the state, all the players around the state. I think they're at the top of the list. Guys that make things happen, and not just stats. I mean, success, and what I'm saying, and wins, and what they mean to the team, and being captains 2 or 3 years on the team. It's just a lot of attributes they brought to the table, and I wouldn't be surprised if both of them's on there. Very good players and great players to represent something like that.
Certainly. So you have two program guys getting ready to represent you guys on the next level, but how has spring been for you this year? How's the team looking in terms of returning starters, and what are you most excited about this year?
Yeah, so this will be our 8th practice today. I'm tinkering with the offense a little bit different this year. So we lost our quarterback to Warner Robbins, who had big stats last year. He threw for over 2,400, and he ran for 1,000, and he transfers. And so I'm sort of changing the offense. Hudson Hewlett was one of our best players last year, receiver. I moved him to quarterback, which he played quarterback in middle school. And he's going to be he's a very good leader for me, and a guy that can – very quick, sort of like Ladd, same size as Ladd, a little bit bigger than Ladd, but can make things happen and throws the ball good enough to keep people honest. So that will be new, and that's why I sort of tinker with the offense. But all the other pieces are back. I mean, I get most of my linemen back, both sides of the ball. I get my running backs back. Besides Petty, I had 2 who really came on last year, Leighton Myers and Tyler Henry. The DB's back. I got my specialist back. So I got a lot of pieces back. Just got to get some reps with some of these guys that are backups that hadn't played a whole lot. And, that's what spring's about, to get them in there. We play Christian Heritage on Friday and just to get them some reps, to get them on film and be able to go into summer and know what we need to work on.
And who are some of the guys this year that you have that confidence that they can be that Iron Man for you, the guys that aren't going to come off the field, are going to go out there and just give it their all every snap?
Yeah, I think it starts with Leighton Myers. He's a linebacker. I put him at tailback, but he's a big muscle up kid that can run. I mean, just a power guy that on defense he brings it every time, and so he'll be a big one for us. Jacob Daly on defense, I'm playing him stuff at fullback too. He had 112 tackles last year for us, leading tackler. He's just going to be a junior. Both those guys are just going to be juniors. He will be on the field a bunch. Very good leaders. Nate Rivera, offensive lineman, defensive lineman, play him at nose. He's going to be a very good player. Aiden Ellis is one of my best linemen, defensive end, tight end type. He's hurt. He tore his ACL toward the end of last season. So he's type of kid he is. He's already worked his tail off, and he's already been cleared. But I'm holding him out this spring. But he's a very good player. Just to name a few, those guys come in mind that they're hard workers. They're great in the weight room. They're leaders on my team. Our team responds how they go. So I look forward to that. I look for us to be very good. We just got to get our quarterback some reps and get some experience in these scrimmages and have a good summer at the camps we go to, and we'll be ready to roll.
Yeah, and you mentioned Hudson Hewlett. He's going to take over that quarterback role. He's one of the many juniors that have come up in the conversation. But how does the region change the offseason this year? The fact that it's a lot bigger. You guys are going to be in the action pretty early in the season, I think maybe week 2. So how's that just changed the preparation, just the fact that you don't have a lot of non-region games?
Yeah, I mean, you got to hit it running. And it's a tough region. You're going to have to fight to get in the playoffs. I mean, you got a Union County, you got Rockmart, you got Sonoraville, you got Ringgold, North Cobb Christian, and you got a lot of really good teams. And man, I like it like that. I like playing good teams, and it helps you when you get in the playoffs. And we only have 2 non-region games, but man, we don't have any easy ones. We open up with Dalton, and we play Northwest Whitfield, so they're two very good teams, and we'll be battle tested time we get in the playoffs. So it'll be a fight in each of these games. So
yes, certainly. Hold up one sec. So you said the 2 non-region games. It's going to be Dalton, and who was the second one?
Northwest Whitfield. Two bigger schools, and 2 schools that are close to us, and we have big crowds. It's a great environment, and I love playing those games. And like I said, it helps us. It helps us to get ready for the region, and helps us in the playoffs too.
And then you guys have been in some major shootouts the last few years. Seems like that region you're in, whether it's Pickens back in the day, Rockmart, these are some just explosive offenses. So what's it been like defensively, just preparing for the season, and what are you excited about on that side of the ball?
Yeah, I look at us on defense, man. We struggled really a couple of years ago. We scored a bunch of points, but we give up a bunch of points. We made that next step this past season, and we played a lot better defense. And I look for us to be very good on defense because we got them all back, and like guys that we had to play at a young age, and they're experienced now, and they know what they're doing. So I look for it, and that. I'm an offensive guy, but I know if you don't have a good defense, you're not going to go very far in the playoffs, and we stress that, and I look for big things from us.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, I really appreciate the time. Thank you so much for coming on. Congrats to your guys, Judson and obviously Ladd, and I hope you guys have a fantastic 2024. Can't wait to see it.
All right. Thanks for having me, man. I'll see you.
You bet. All right, so there goes Coach Poag. Thank you so much for the time and giving us that insight into Ladd and Judson. I always like hearing about them. And yeah, that Georgia Tech receiver room is very deep. I'm glad that opportunity came about, though, with a player transferring in. Judson continued to work. Thought it was interesting. He said that he was frustrated that he wasn't getting that opportunity. I think that's going to help him out because now that he has it, there's a real appreciation he'll have for Tech for being the team that took the chance on him. He'll go in there motivated, and there's just so many standout receivers that he's going to be sharing the receiver room with, whether it's Singleton from Alexander, you got Bailey Stockton, just so many names that got it done at the highest level in Georgia. But we are running out of time. So I'm just going to point you guys towards scoreatl.com. So you can check out, we've got the lacrosse state championship preview there. We also will have links to the championship guides. Soccer's coming up. You got tennis also this weekend. And then the baseball semifinals will be around the corner. And then obviously starting tomorrow will be the track and field state championships. We will have updates each day, and it's very important to look kind of who is having the success early on day one, because they're going to have the field events first, and then the final days of the sprint. So last year, saw teams like Hughes and Southwest DeKalb weren't doing well in the standings after day one, but then were able to dominate the final day. And we will have that updated and see who comes out on top. But that is all we have time for today. We'll be back tomorrow at 2 o'clock with Keeping It Real with Najee Wilkins. Also, be sure to check out our article once again on the Hall of Fame ballot, that's going to be coming out this month. The 100 names. It'll be a huge honor for who gets in this third class. But hope everyone has a good one. We'll see you next time.